Sometimes you just gotta make them bite. There he is. Look at that. Great big one. This spot's gotta have fish. I got him. Good one, boy. Good one.
There we go. Good job. Nice fish.
That did not take too
The first warming trends of spring. The sun's rays penetrate the water's surface with growing intensity, warming the shallows and kick-starting the food chain into increased production. Most species of freshwater fish respond to this environmental warm-up by penetrating the shallows in search of food. As they do, each species responds in its own way, choosing the times and places for their initial appearances and activity.
Oh, that boy's got one on the back.
To catch them, you first have to find them, each according to its own instinctive behavior.
See, whoop, there they are, right there, Mr. Porter. See, we're just coming into the bait. You can see these books.
Ooh. Ooh. I know that sound. That's the sound of success. Ooh, there he goes. Woohoo. I think I hooked the express train.
And that's where a little early season angling logic pays big dividends. Today, on the edge, we go float fishing for pre-spawn crappies, dangling small jigs below sensitive bobbers that detect light bites without spooking finicky fish.
That's a pretty guy, huh, Mike?
Nice.
Then, we enjoy a spring fling for smallmouth bass, fresh off a long winter's rest and raring to go on an early season feeding binge. Time's a-wasting, and there's no time to lose. Once instinctive feeding and spawning urges kick into high gear, fish are on the move and on the bite. Fish 'em and find 'em with the right tactics, and the fight won't be far behind.
Baby, check.
First one. Oh, big one.
Look at that.
Suffolk's 832 is constructed with 7 strands of Dyneema and a single strand of Gore Performance Fiber. It's the roundest, longest casting line in the world. It offers superior abrasion resistance so you can fish it anywhere. It's the strongest, most sensitive, and durable small diameter braid ever to hit the water. Nice fish, Brett.
Thanks.
Suffolk's 832. Always use the best line.
Really? You're seriously just gonna leave me in here?
Yeah, I'm fishing deep today, Ike.
Are you kidding me? These are perfect conditions for pulling big bass out of heavy cover.
Yeah?
Heck yeah! Try one of these weedless wacky jigs.
All right, yeah.
It has an offset hook and stainless steel weed guard. Whoa! Oh,
Sorry, Ike.
flip it in there, and its wacky action will have you pulling out one fat bass after another. Please! I can't say anything.
And there she is.
My first Mercury.
154 stroke, the lightweight heavyweight. And she comes with all this. Say hi to Wendy from customer support. She's always there to help. Jerry from product testing. He dishes out the torture.
They can take it.
Good. And Tim from design. He never misses a detail. Obsessed with quality. Bobby, prop engineer. He turns horsepower into performance. This is George.
It's good to have Mercury behind you. Meet the rest of the team at mercurymarine.com.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Closed captioning provided by Northwest Ontario, Canada.
Crappies are a nomadic species. No matter where you live in the country, they move a lot, especially in the springtime. Today, Ryan DeShane and I are going to look at some overlooked spots on a lake for crappies and how to catch them.
Water temperature is the big determinant. That tells us whether the fish are in a pre-spawn, spawn, or post-spawn mode and where we're going to find them.
Let's go back in time, seasonally, so we'll have a better idea of where we are right now. Last summer, the majority of the crappies were congregated along the deep weed edge when the water temperature was at its peak. As fall arrived and the water temperature started to drop, many crappies migrated towards basin areas. Then, when winter hit, many crappies settled down into the deep water and roam, feeding on insects and minnows. In spring, where we are right now, the ice came off 2 weeks ago. These fish have migrated from those deep basin areas towards spawning habitat and are on the hunt for two things: food and cover. We are simply intercepting them in this period prior to spawning. These fish are on the move and are often in small pods and can be pinned down for short periods of time. Then you have to resume the search. They can be here today and gone tomorrow.
There he is. There's a crappie, Mike.
Good. Oh.
Yeah, that's a nice fish. Not huge, but this is what we're after. It's a pretty guy, huh, Mike?
Nice. Oh, here we go. Ryan, I got one going. There we go. Oh yeah, another one of those little... Water temperature is an indicator of spring crappie activity, but not an absolute guarantee of where fish are or what they're doing. That's because early spring weather is often unstable, with water temperatures and fish location fluctuating accordingly. Even so, we can generally say that when the surface temperature in shallow bays is between 38 and 58 degrees Fahrenheit, crappies are somewhere in pre-spawn mode. At the cooler end of the range, early pre-spawn crappies are often fickle and flighty, roaming shallow weeds at the mouths of bays until weather conditions stabilize. That's where the fish are and how they're behaving today. A few consecutive days of warm, calm weather usually begins drawing crappies up into the extreme back ends of bays and channels. During these mid-pre-spawn conditions, crappies typically relate to and feed around flooded wood cover like fallen trees, submerged logs, and beaver lodges along the shoreline. As spring water temperatures rise towards 50, crappies begin shifting towards spawning areas, which often occur in reed beds near the mouths of bays. As surface temperatures approach 55, late pre-spawn crappies begin actively building nests. By 60 degrees, crappies should be spawning in earnest.
Here we go. Got a fish going here. There he is. Sure enough, Mike, I think that school's back there a little bit further. I made a pretty good long cast off of the back of the boat. It's really a matter of just making a cast to where they're at. They're not everywhere now. Yeah, it's a beauty.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit bigger than that last.
You want a net on that one?
Right behind the motor. I think I can handle this guy, Mikey.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beauty, huh, Mike?
I'd say. Whoa. You don't see those every day.
That's what I'm talking about. Look at that.
Here we go.
That's a beauty. Yeah, these fish are definitely in tight schools.
In this pre-spawn period, many baits will work. We've caught crappies swim in micro crankbaits, hair jigs, and soft plastic twister tails in and around weed beds, which are great for type A personalities. These lures generally work best when it's overcast or wavy, and the fish will travel far out of cover to hit a bait. Well, today we got mile-high skies and it's flat calm. These fish aren't moving far or fast to hit baits, but we still need to fish aggressively because the fish are in wandering schools. This is the solution that's working for me. It's a simple float rig with a twist. I'm using 6-pound test Suffix 832 braid for my main line, which allows for much further casting. The next part of this system is a 4-pound test shank of fluorocarbon. This is a leader which is nearly invisible underwater. Now, as far as lures go, Mike is going traditional with a 1/0 VMC long shank hook and tail hooked crappie minnow. I'm fishing with a more aggressive lure. This is a 16th ounce VMC hot skirt jig and it's a crappie killer. You can cast it a mile and work it a little more aggressively than a plain minnow. Both work well when you're fishing spooky crappie on large flats.
Here we go.
I think it's sinking.
There he is.
Yeah, it's gonna be a crappie. There's your crappie.
Here, there. Oh, nice crappie. We're gonna let this one go, Mike. We got plenty for dinner. You know, for this basic float fishing technique, I prefer a 7-foot ultralight rod with a small ultralight reel. You don't need a whole lot for this style of fishing. What that long rod helps you accomplish is getting the bait or the lure out far, far from the boat. And it also prevents ripping the hook out of the fish's mouth. When you're fishing little micro jigs like this, there's a real tendency with stiffer rods to tear that hook out of the fish's mouth. That forgiveness of that soft action helps you boat more fish. You just hook them a lot better. So that's the basic system. Small reel, a longer rod with a softer action, and you're set up for fishing floats.
You know, fishing the crappies up on these weed flats, it's pretty important to have a quiet motor. Ryan and I have been using this new Minn Kota Terova, and it lets us creep around up on these weed flats without spooking the fish. And another cool feature about it is called spot lock. And what we can do is we hit this button here, this anchor button on there, and if we catch a fish, hit the button, it locks us in position. It's just like having an anchor without having to pull one up and down. So we hit it, we stay in one spot, then we want to move, we take it off and we move on. Here's another feature that we are using on our Minn Kota Terova iPilot. It's called the Go-To feature. Like we said, we are on a large weed flat with several pods of crappies. We have isolated 3 little schools of fish. I simply save my coordinates on each school. We fish here for a while, then return to a prior coordinate by simply a push of the button. As the Terova travels back to the coordinate, we aggressively fish the in-between areas. We've been playing Ring Around the Rosie all day long, staying with these active fish. This is the most efficient way to fish a large flat for spooky fish.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Just reel down on them with this braid. You don't have to really set the hook at all. Yeah, I don't. Whew. That's a beauty. Hey, when you head out crappie fishing in the spring, pay attention to the water temperature. It's going to help you decide where these fish are at in the system. And always be prepared to move.
While small panfish are abundant, slab crappies, bull bluegills, and wily white bass are elusive, finicky, and challenging to catch. Locate and catch them with Primetime Panfish, part of our Angling Edge instructional DVD collection available at anglingedge.com.
Are you finding it harder and harder to spend time with your family? All you need is the right place to reconnect.
walleye, Dad.
Here we go. This is fun.
Northwest Ontario, your place to reconnect.
Why take chances with your engines? Protect them from neglect, wear, and tear the easy way. With Seafoam Motor Treatment. Seafoam helps to maintain top engine performance by removing harmful deposit buildup from your engine and fuel system. Control moisture in gas and diesel. Stabilize fuel for up to 2 years. And lubricate your engines to start easier, run cooler, and last longer. Trust all your engines to Seafoam Motor Treatment, the choice of mechanics for over 70 years.
The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
Really excited. You know, if you live up north, where you get hard water, where the lakes actually freeze over, when spring comes and the ice goes off the lake and you love to fish, you get really excited. In our office, everybody loves to go smallmouth fishing shortly after ice out. They've been fishing the rivers already, catching bunches of walleyes. But the idea of an early season smallmouth bite, well, that turns on everybody. Where Ron and I are, my brother Ron and I are going to fish a bunch of the lakes that we're at. We're west out of Minnesota in an area that has a bunch of small natural lakes. Now, big fish here is going to be 5.5. And this time of the year, we'll probably poke a few. But here's the deal. The ice went off 4 days ago, Thursday. It's 3:15 Monday afternoon. I have no idea what to expect. I'm guessing the water's going to be kind of cold, but that's the drill. Been out for 4 days. We might be pushing it a little bit. Brother Ron is sitting over there making snowballs. He's making snowballs, maybe snowmen, I don't know.
Before we get going on this spring-fling smallmouth mission, I just want to go on record saying that this had to be one of the weirdest springs I can remember ever. It is one for the record books. Al came back from his winter vacation early. He wanted to get a jump start on filming. He was really surprised.
It's the middle of April, and we're dealing with this. I left 95 degrees water temperature at Lake Havasu. 95 degree air temperature at Lake Havasu.
I came back from Florida the 1st of May and drove into a snowstorm. Generally speaking, the ice goes out in the North Country by my home in central Minnesota around April 15th. This year, the ice did not go out until May 15th. There was still ice on many of the lakes for the Minnesota walleye opener. In my lifetime, that was a first. What does that do to the fish? Well, it shortens up their spawning cycle. Many fish will come in, do their deal, and get out ASAP. Some fish will not spawn at all and just absorb their eggs. This is the balance of nature and part of the constantly shifting puzzle we call fishing. We, as fishermen, have to roll with the punches. I wasn't getting nothing on the baits. I threw one right out the back of the boat, flipped it right out. It feels like a pretty good fish. I'm not used to fishing this light line. That looks like a gooder one.
I'm going to net yours.
Yeah, you better net this, Al, because I'm used to 30-pound leaders in Florida.
Just take it real easy. It's a big brown bass. Just take them easy. You're not going nowhere. The water's really dirty. Like I said earlier, the ice just went off. Oh, there's one. There's one. On the ever-famous X-Rat, naturally.
Finding smallmouth in the early season can be quite easy. Sometimes you have to go back a few steps to get a better idea of where you're headed. During the winter on natural lakes, many smallmouth will winter near a basin area in 15 to 30 foot of water with rocks on it. When the ice goes out and the water starts to warm up even slightly, these fish can move up quickly. You see these giant food shelves adjacent to their wintering area? These are prime locations to start your search. There can be giant schools of fish roving these flats in search of easy meals. That's where we come in, serving up exactly what they want.
Might as well, Ron, I tell, we don't let the fish go like that. You get one like that, give me a talon down here. That one hit right by the boat. Talon down. Doesn't that sound good? You're getting pretty good at that. I like that. They also got a remote control for that talon, but he's sitting right back there in the king's chair. And the way I'm fishing right now in this real cold water, this X-Wrap can get really erratic if you really get to work in the bait. And you can overwork it in this cold water. The way I've been fishing this thing, I started to work a little bit faster. I've been playing with the presentations. I'll pop it down, get it down a little bit. I'm actually pulling the bait with the rod and stopping. I'm reeling up, I'm pulling it with the rod and stopping. And I'll occasionally give it a very, very short pop and leave it sit for a long time. Much different than I'd be fishing when it's summertime and I'm fishing 75, 78 degree water temperatures.
The method of straining water has completely changed with the introduction of the Minn Kota talon. In years past, we would have never anchored in a fishing situation like we're faced with today. It would have been easier to just stay on the troll, fight the wind, and keep on circling around. The talon offers us the flexibility to stop on a dime in any condition. Got a knot in your spool? Drop the talon. Want a sandwich? Drop the talon. Need to change lures? Drop the talon. Today I'm power fishing up front with a twitch bait while Ron drags a hair jig off the back until we bump into a school of fish on these giant flats. Then we talon down. Fan cast for 5 to 10 minutes, catch everything in our circumference, then move on. The neat thing is the Minn Kota talon now comes in a 10 to 12 foot model, so we can do the same thing in even deeper water. We're just scratching the surface of the applications of this fantastic tool.
When I first come out here, I told you we didn't know what to expect. It's about almost 6:45. We've been out here about 3.5 hours. My guess is we caught probably at least a couple of dozen smallmouth. And they're like this size and then some really, really big ones. Now, when you stop and think that the ice has been only off for 4 days, the wind has been blowing 30, 35 miles an hour, the water is riled and dirty. Good way to start the season?
From the surface to the depths, in cover or roaming open water, if you can find bass, you catch them. In finding bass, the Angling Edge staff uses every trick in the book to find bass quickly and make them bite. It's part of our Angling Edge instructional DVD collection, available at anglingedge.com.
Welcome to the Inner Circle. Rotating coverage up to 300 feet gives you a detailed 360-degree view of structure, contour changes, and fish. So you can see them before they see you. Introducing 360 imaging, only from Humminbird.
For years, they've quietly taken you where the fish are. But now the silence is about to break. With the incredible new iPilot Link, your Minn Kota and Humminbird can communicate with each other. So you can hold on a spot like an electronic anchor. Record and return to waypoints and paths. Follow any LakeMaster depth contour and more. All automatically and all from your Humminbird or the Link remote. They talk and you'll be speechless.
In fishing, nothing beats the confidence and enjoyment that comes with using the best equipment. There's a reason why generations of professional anglers, guides, and camp operators make Lund their boat of choice. They stand up to the elements and the repeated use that hardcore anglers put them through, season after season. They're guide-tested, wilderness-proven. Isn't it time for you to experience the Lund difference?
The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
In my local newspaper, there's a section that they have titled Guest Opinion, and it covers all kinds of topics. One of them happens to be religion. And there was an opinion in here by a guy that is an atheist and basically questioned the existence of God, said Jesus never lived. There's no documentation on this, and it caused quite a stir. A lot of people bounced back and forth. And by the way, I'll make a side note to that. That kind of reminds me of that guy in Iraq that said there wasn't a Holocaust, when you got all kind of document the fact that there is. But that's just something to think about. But he goes on to the title of the thing was Christianity, Pious Fiction or Fantasy. And then it says, we're faced with a religion founded on pious fiction, fraud, forgery, fantasy, and fakery. Well, needless to say, it upset a lot of people. Pastors responded, lay people responded. He's been bouncing back and forth, and hey, I had to stick my 2 cents in. Let me read you a quick response that I bounced back with along with my brother Ron. A number of letters, some from Deerwood and others from Pine River, have on a regular basis taken to task folks who apparently believe in a higher power called God. The various retorts and counter letters cite arguments from academia, history, science, and even the Bible. Regardless of one's point of view on life, these 4 vital questions must be asked or answered. How did I come to be? What is the meaning of life? How do I discern between good and evil on an individual as well as corporate basis, if such a thing even exists? When I die, what happens to me? Simple questions. However, how you answer them will expose who you are. The non-theist cannot comment on the power of faith because they have never experienced it. They do not and cannot possibly understand it. How sad. On the other hand, those who have actually experienced the power of God through faith have no problem answering any of these questions and can face any perplexing circumstances that life puts in their path. Now this thing is going to go on. He answered me, and then there's going to be other people bouncing back and forth. He isn't going to change my mind, and I doubt that I'm going to change his. Only God can change his mind, but that's a whole nother story. And there just goes on and on. But a scripture that bounced back or I thought about a number of times and nobody ever said it, is Psalm 14:1. Again, that's Psalm 14:1 in the Bible. You could look it up if you got a Bible at home. You can go on your cell phone and look it up, Psalm 14:1. You can go on your computer at the office and look it up. That's Psalm 14:1. It really says a lot about this issue. Hey, from all of us here at The Edge, you have a good, safe fishing season. We'll see you on the water. Once again, Psalm 14:1.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. And if you really like what you see, we got a whole lot more. So check us out at any one of these online outlets.